All right, back with you then here on In Focus. And let's get into that conversation. The Gauteng government has announced that it will establish the Public Transport Arbitration Office. Among others, the office is expected to help resolve disputes over routes in the unregulated taxi industry. The problem of routes has over the years brought shame to the industry, with owners, drivers and bystanders as well as passengers losing their lives because of infighting. Here to talk to us more about this, I'm joined now by Gauteng Public Transport and Roads Infrastructure MEC Jacob Mamabolo, Tshwane Regional Taxi Council spokesperson McDonald Makata, and Ntate Mathebe, representing the National Taxi Alliance. Gentlemen, good evening and thank you very much for your time joining us tonight here on In Focus. This, of course, follows a process, MEC, that you undertook as the province, the Commission of Inquiry into Taxi Violence in Gauteng. One of the suggestions there, or recommendations in line with that commission by Judge Jeremiah Shongwe, was that something of the likes of a Public Transport Arbitration Office should be put in place. Now, my initial question, I suppose, would be, is the arbitrator someone that all players, role players in the taxi space are confident will be impartial and fair?
Well, firstly, good evening to you. Let me greet your guests and also the viewers. Thank you for the opportunity. Let me just quickly confirm that, yes, as the Gauteng provincial government, we have made an announcement to establish the provincial Public Transport Arbitration Office, which will be chaired by and led by a retired judge. Just directly to your question, whilst we have not yet announced the name of the retired judge, but there have been consultations with the taxi industry. We always consult with them. And what we have at this point is an assurance that the process of an arbitration office, or the principle of an arbitration office, including the retired judge, is fully supported by the taxi industry, in this case, Santago and GNTA, that's the Gauteng National Taxi Alliance. And we are quite confident that once the Gauteng legislature approves a policy that we have presented to them of having an arbitration office as part of our alternative dispute resolution, we should be able, in at least 1st of February, to see the office taking effect and starting to solve the persisting and very stubborn problem of taxi violence, and 80% of it, or most of it, come from the disputes on the routes. So to that extent, I'd like to say where we are standing, this has the full backing and support of the taxi industry, because they understand that this is in essence about saving human lives. The constitution of our country makes the life of every human being very important.
Right.
And in the taxi industry, people are dying.
Right.
So this is yet another input, innovation, solution to bring peace, stability, and save human lives in the taxi industry.
Ntate Mathebe, let's bring you in. You can unmute there for us. As the Taxi Association, what is your view? Now, one of the causes of conflict, as per the report around taxi violence in Gauteng, is the irregular and fraudulent issuance of routes to competing associations, as the MEC is saying there. Some of these cases have not been able, for example, to be solved by the associations themselves, by the SAPS. Even some arbitration processes that include the courts sometimes don't always yield results, to the extent that there continues to be some sporadic violence here and there. Why do you believe that an office like the Transport Arbitration Office would be effective in resolving these issues?
Good evening, and good evening to my colleagues and the MEC for Transport. We, as the taxi industry, we are fully in support of the arbitration, since we believe that the fraudulent issuance of these operating licenses and the issuance of the routes to different associations has been the root cause of the whole thing. We had a taxi summit with the MEC, whereby we made recommendations to an extent that we came to the issue of the arbitration, whereby we even made recommendation to the MEC in support of the idea, because we feel and think that this will be the only solution towards the current situation that we are facing, whereby the root conflict is causing so many deaths in the taxi industry. Our people are killing one another because somewhere somebody is not doing justice to the industry and to the government itself, more especially the Department of Transport.
Yeah. Why you don't place such a degree of confidence in other law enforcement processes? For example, the SAPS would indicate that some cases remain unresolved because the taxi associations or the taxi operators themselves are not forthcoming, for example, with necessary information or evidence that could lead to successful prosecutions. Why would this particular office be any different?
This one will be different to us in the sense that it's for us, with us being part of the whole setup. We have joined hands with the Department of Roads and Transport in Gauteng, and as the two biggest national taxi bodies, we feel that with this we can manage, because we will be part of the whole system. In a situation where the police are handling this, some of the cases end up not being resolved, but we basically feel that with us taking part, because we are the people who are actually on the ground with the whole thing, we think we can do it, and with the support of the Department of Transport, Roads and Transport in Gauteng, which seems to be very eager in solving this issue, we feel this time will be the right time to solve everything.
Yeah. Ntate Makata, let's get a sense from yourself in terms of the process itself. As the associations, you're saying you're part of it, you're actually going to make up what this arbitration office is going to be about. One of the things about an alternative dispute resolution platform of this nature is that the arbitration, if binding, is something that would mean the other parties give up their right to appeal in a sense. So if the arbitration has decided this is the award that we're giving, all parties must abide to that. Are the associations awakened to that, and they are willing to abide by those outcomes?
Let me take this opportunity to greet the colleagues in the studio. Yes, I think our stance as the taxi industry is just that. I think it's also long overdue. We have been saying it all this time, that it is so weird that people are killing each other, yet perpetrators are not found. Whether the ones who issued permits or those who killed other people. So it has been a torment. Sorry about that. I think with arbitration, it will help us a very great deal.
All right, MEC, let's bring back then. I know you're saying the regulation is still before the Gauteng Provincial Legislature for processes, but just for clarity on our side, what will be the issues that this arbitration office will be looking at? I mean, I've already mentioned what came out of the report. One of the causes of conflict is irregular and fraudulent issuance of routes to competing associations. But the other one is illegal operations, as well as operators who do have an operating license, but they add vehicles that are not authorized. So what kind of disputes will they be dealing with here?
So let me give a practical example. If we were to just take the current dispute that we have in Soweto between Wata and Manduwe, or between what is called ITA and Everton West in City Bay. The issue there is that each one of these two associations in City Bay, in Soweto, and there are others, they are all saying we have been given a particular route for routes by government, which is the department. And both of them are claiming that. And obviously it can't be correct that both were given the same routes because it will cause conflict. But the Commission of Inquiry has said, indeed that has happened. We have allocated same routes to different taxi associations causing violence. So the type of disputes that they will be dealing with and the manner in which this will be done is that if I were to take Wata and Nanjue, each one of them, together with us as the department, will present evidence before an arbitrator. And the arbitrator will interrogate the evidence of the department, the one that is put before by Wata and Nanjue. Because remember the Commission said, we as a department have corrupted and intoxicated the whole environment of issuance of routes. So the arbitrator will then listen to evidence, almost like a court process, and based on the evidence will then say, this route belonged to X, to Wata, not Nanjue, or this route belonged to Nanjue, not Wata. In that case, we as a department and the associations will be bound by the arbitration award. Any party that is not happy with the award can apply to court to set it aside. But at least the decision will have been made. Unlike currently, we have these disputes, we are negotiating, discussing, but there's no finality on them because the Commission of Inquiry has found that we as a department are not credible, legitimate, and authentic anymore to say this route belongs to X and Y. So that's why it should be done through a process similar to a court one. The percent are the routes. There are other disputes about the internal operations of associations. Sometimes people are fighting over leadership. There are internal fights inside associations where they end up killing each other. So any dispute that is very serious, poses threat to human life, the parties will submit to the arbitrator. The good thing, and in relation to what you said, was that there are courts, courts take their time. So this will be a dedicated capacity, available, quick and fast, make a decision, and anyone not happy can go to court. So all disputes, and we're calling it the Public Transport Arbitration Office, so that if there's any other dispute between a taxi association, a bus company, or any disputes in public transport relating to routes or any matter that causes instability and threat to human life, instead of a long court process, we will explore the arbitration office and the parties will argue their case. Right. And then the arbitrator will say the award goes in favor of X or not Y.
Yeah. And I'm glad you've already mentioned that the one advantage, of course, is that this would take a shorter time than otherwise a court process would have taken. But, of course, who pays for the cost of this arbitration?
Well, because so the cost will be like as follows. We as a department will pay the cost of related to the arbitration office, that is the arbitrator. And that does not interfere with their independence because they will follow the rules of the courts and those of the Arbitration Act. They are not accountable to us as a department. They are not accountable to government. They are accountable to the Judicial Service Commission in terms of the supremacy of the law. But the cost of lawyers, even if a taxi association want to bring lawyers to argue their case, because the rules of the court will be applied, and in many instances, I'm quite sure 90% They will bring their lawyers and their counsel. They will carry the costs of bringing their legal team to argue the case. But we will pay every cost that relates to the judge as the arbitrator will be carried by us. They will carry their legal costs. We will also carry our own legal costs, and that does not interfere with the autonomy, independence, and objectivity of the arbitration office.
Right. Ntate Mathebe, what happens after the arbiter issues an award from the point of the association? What is the commitment that the taxi industry is giving to the passengers who otherwise get quite disorganized and even at sometimes their lives threatened when these things go into a conflict space?
From where we are sitting, we're saying all our affiliates will have to comply and will ensure that everything that is pertaining to the award given is being followed up and is being implemented and accepted by the said association. Though we do not take away their right to appeal, as the MEC has just said. And we also intended to, that's our standpoint, is that the community that we serve is the one that brought us to this situation, because they are the only people who are suffering on the ground as much as there is a turf war on the roads and whatever. So the arbitration is more about ensuring the safety and the security of the commuters that we serve. Therefore, any person who is our affiliate is operating within the jurisdiction of Gauteng, where the two structures and the MEC are working, has to comply. This is an agreement between us and the department. Yeah. So there's no way that this will be left out and not be implemented.
Yeah. Quick one from you, Ntate Makata, as we wrap up. I mean, do you see that there will be any challenge in enforcing the awards coming from the arbitrator?
I don't see any challenges coming forward. Remember, I'm speaking from my regional point of view. And, associations are really eager to have that moved from the paper to practicality. The sooner it starts, I think the happier the associations will be, because we have been really saying it. As I said earlier, this has been our cry, that we need somebody to listen our cries, to our cries, and come to our rescue, because there was nobody really to talk to. There was nobody specific who deal with our grievances when brought forward regarding routes, conflicts and stuff.
I appreciate your time, gentlemen, and thank you very much for coming through. And MEC, as always, a pleasure having you on. And of course, thanks to you as well for engaging with us tonight in this conversation.